The members of the Canadian Armed Forces were at very low risk from the virus, as demonstrated, for example, by their service in high outbreak environments like nursing homes, with 0 Canadian Armed Forces fatalities. To date, there has been no COVID-19 death in the Canadian Armed Forces. The true damage to the Canadian Armed Forces has come from the injections themselves, the consequences of an experimental gene therapy, and the mandate. COVID-19 did not decimate the Canadian Armed Forces.
As first reported Thursday in Blacklocks, the Canadian Armed Forces is in a real recruitment and retention crisis. According to the report, National Defence Minister Bill Blair said there's a real challenge in the Canadian Armed Forces. Now, he said this during a Senate question period. He goes on, over the last 3 years, we've actually seen greater attrition, more people leaving the forces than the Canadian Armed Forces has been able to recruit. The military last December 5th announced it would accept landed immigrants on the promise of speedier processing of citizenship applications. The program had not boosted recruitment, said Blair. Does your biggest concern lie in recruitment? Asked Senator Tony Lafredo of Quebec. My concern is not only for recruitment because we have to get the best talent coming in the door, but I'm also concerned about retention because we have extraordinary men and women in the Canadian Armed Forces, replied Blair. I want to make sure we provide them with the appropriate support. Blair did not detail figures. Annual recruitment last year fell 35% from just over 8,000 to 5,200 volunteers, according to a July 5th Department of National Defence briefing note called Recruitment and Retention. However, the crisis in recruitment and retention in the military is due in no small part to COVID. Now, let me be clear. COVID did not decimate the health and the wellness of the Canadian Armed Forces troops. The leadership did that through the imposition of a vaccine mandate.
You will be given an appointment time and will be required to show up at the clinic. The COVID-19 vaccine is voluntary for all members of the Canadian Armed Forces. You will be required to consent on site at the vaccination clinic to receive the vaccine. On the day of your appointment, you will be expected to arrive at the clinic on time, and the clinic staff will confirm your attendance. Before you receive the vaccine, you will be provided with key information such as potential side effects, the process for receiving the vaccine, the process for actively declining the vaccine, and what to do if you decline but then change your mind. You will be given an opportunity to have your specific questions answered, and finally, you will be advised of the time and date of your second dose. Those who consent will receive their vaccine at a vaccination station. You will be able to decline the vaccine up to the last minute in front of an immunizer behind a privacy wall.
Just listen to lawyer for Canadian Armed Forces members, Catherine Christensen, in her testimony before the National Citizens Inquiry into the government's response to COVID-19. Christensen details the circumstances that have caused a loss of 10% of the country's operational force.
The leadership did it from within. What has been the cost of COVID-19 mandates on the Canadian Armed Forces? I could quote you the statistics that the Government of Canada would like you to have. To say those are inaccurate is a diplomatic evasion from the reality. From a financial perspective, the cost to the Canadian taxpayer is estimated to be at least $3 billion in lost training, experience, and expertise. Plus, there have been significant administrative costs to implement the mandate and its consequences. The costs to members and their families add to the total. Years of service gone, benefits gone, pensions gone or reduced, injured members denied earned benefits of a medical release, denied unemployment insurance benefits, and blocked from some forms of employment due to the release category of 5F. The true cost in dollars may never be fully known. Institutionally, the Canadian Armed Forces have lost people. Thousands of people are pouring out of the service since 2020, and they are not being replaced by new recruits. What few recruits do join, who's left to train them? It isn't generals and admirals who train the ranks. It's the non-commissioned officers and the junior officers, and their ranks have been essentially wiped out. Some of the finest battle-experienced members were driven out of the Canadian Armed Forces when they need them the most. The media has covered the gutted state of our military ranks, where even the best soundbite from the defense officials cannot hide the sad state of our military.
It should be noted that forced vaccination, which hammered the largely young male population of the Canadian Armed Forces, was inoculation with the Moderna injectable. That's the same injectable that, after the entire operational force was vaccinated under threat of dismissal, was no longer recommended for young males because of the increased risk of vaccine injury to the recipient.
First came out, they weren't allowing them to have any other kind. They had to take the Moderna. And we all know now, and they would have known then, about all the adverse reactions they were getting from the Moderna injections, because they had a very distinct group of people with shared characteristics. It was an ideal test group. Right. That really shouldn't have happened, because I believe that previous chiefs of defense staff who seemed to be removed very quickly when they didn't bring in mandates, that was one of their concerns. What if there's something wrong and we wipe out our entire military with this?
The crisis in the Canadian military is a crisis of trust in the chain of command, not a crisis in a sense of duty or patriotism, and only a change in command will fix that. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. Rebel News sent journalist Avi Yamini to Israel to document the war between Israel and Hamas in the Gaza Strip, but also to report on the reporting of the war, to see his journalism and to support his trip there. Please go to thetruthaboutthewar.com.